This is Ashley Hodge. I'm joined by King McClure, and we are two basketball junkies, Big 12 junkies, and we're going to talk some Big 12 NBA draft. So it's a couple weeks away, and I want to go through the non-Baylor players, and then we're going to specifically focus on the Baylor guys later on. But let's just talk about the guys that are likely to be drafted in the NBA. I know you're a color commentator for ESPN. You've seen these guys live a lot, and obviously you follow their careers over the years. Let's talk about potentially the number one draft pick, Cade Cunningham first.
Yeah.
What are his strengths and weaknesses? What kind of a pro do you think he'll be?
You know, he's definitely the number one pick in my book. I mean, I think whoever takes him, the Pistons, or there's actually talks of him going number two and potentially taking Evan Mobley number one or Jalen Green number one. But I think he's the number one pick. He's the best player in the draft because he's so versatile. He can do so much as a basketball player. He's a 6'7" point guard. Can handle the ball, can really get to the cup, and can pass. He makes his teammates better. That's what I love about him the most. He's a winner. He wants to make his teammates better and pass first. However, on the flip side, he can score. Yeah. He can put the ball in the hole, and this year he showed he can step out and shoot the three. Yeah. That was one of the biggest question marks about his game. Could this kid shoot from three consistently? He did it. He proved it. He won with the Oklahoma State team, just to be frank, that just was not that good, wasn't the best, got the most out of them. He's definitely number one player in my book.
Yeah, the one thing he does really well is the pick and roll execution, and that's a lot of what the NBA is, right? Half court pick and roll execution. His court vision's exceptional. Yeah. Like he's able to read pick and rolls well and bully his way to the rim if he needs to, step back for threes or find the open guy. What are some of his weaknesses? He turns the ball over a lot.
Yeah. I mean,
so that's one.
At Oklahoma State, I mean, he had the ball in his hand so much that, I mean, it's kind of expected. You expect him to not be able to take care of the ball as great as you would like because he had to do so much, had so much on his back. However, I think the biggest thing for me is, can he be a go-to guy in the NBA?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he's the number one player, number one pick in the draft in my book, but I don't know if he can be that guy at the end of an NBA game. Go give me a bucket. Or take over this game. I don't know. I mean, a lazy comparison is Michael Carter Williams.
Yeah.
That's a lazy comparison. But I just don't know if he can be that go-to guy and be your best player on an NBA team and win you a championship. That's my biggest question mark for his game.
Yeah, and his athleticism. I mean, that comes down to athleticism because he's not what you would call, he's an exceptional Big 12 athlete, but he's not an exceptional NBA athlete.
Yeah,
he's not going to wow you with his ability to jump, I mean, but he's got a 7-foot wingspan. I mean, there's a lot to love, and that's why he's obviously being talked about as the number one pick in the draft. Let's move down the list. There's some guys like Kai Jones is being talked about in the lottery. Kai Jones measured well. He measured almost 7 feet in shoes, and people play basketball in shoes. So I think that's the measurement you should use. 7'2" wingspan. He hits threes. He's a rim roller. He's a versatile defender. What have you seen from him?
Man, I love Kai Jones. This is the kid who this whole season I probably hyped up the most because I really love his game. And I think he has, arguably that everybody we're about to talk about, he might have the highest upside, even more so than Cade Cunningham. And they have him going top 10 right now. But his versatility, he's 7 foot. The guy can handle the ball. He can step out and shoot the three. He can defend 1 through 5.
Right.
That right there pays you, get you paid a lot of money. And I think just that alone, his defensive ability, his offensive ability, and he's an exceptional athlete.
Yeah.
I think those characteristics are, $100 million characteristics.
Yeah.
So that's going to get him paid, and I think his upside is going to be crazy. Whatever team gets him, he's going to be able to make an immediate impact on whatever franchise he goes to.
So the reasons why he's not a top 5 pick by the prognosticators is strength and toughness. I mean, those are the two probably the weaknesses right now. He's got to get stronger.
He has to get stronger, but also, I mean, if you look at the guys in the top 5, I mean,
Evan Mobley's kind of the same build,
you got
right?
Evan Mobley, you got Jonathan Kuminga, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green. I forgot who the 5th guy is, but I don't think he's better than those guys. Yeah, Scotty Barnes. I don't think he's better than those guys, but he's up there. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why he's not going top 5 because he's not as good as those guys. But as far as upside goes, whatever team gets him, they're getting an amazing pick. They're getting the right pick, the great pick that's going to be able to almost change their franchise.
Yeah, I agree. I'm big on Kai Jones as well. Jalen Suggs was the other guy we left out. We're talking about the top 5. Deuce McBride for West Virginia. he was a guy that I think Huggins was hoping would come back, but he had a great combine. He measured extremely well. You know, he's only 6'3", but 6'9" wingspan, 39-inch vertical. I mean, he does a lot of things really well. He can score at all three levels. He can get to the rim. He's got a nice mid-range shot over 40% from three. I mean, what are you seeing from him?
Yeah, I mean, I did about 3 or 4 West Virginia games this year, and the kid is very, very impressive. And what's most impressive to me is his ability to compete on both ends.
Yeah.
So he can go get you 25, but also guard the best guard on the other team. He's like a real athlete. And I think that translates. And, you know, Huggins is so big on defense, and toughness. So the kid is tough. There's no question about that because you play for Huggins. You have to be in order to step on the court. The kid can score. I mean, he had to lead the team in scoring because their scoring options were very limited this year in West Virginia. It was a little bit better, but he was the go-to guy.
Yeah.
But defensively, you're able to guard Jared Butler. Give me 25 and go guard Jared Butler. Okay, then switch off Jared Butler because Davion's getting hot. Go guard Davion. Okay, you can do that too. So I think that right there makes him a very intriguing pick for me. I mean, will he go first round? Maybe late first round. Yeah. But if I were to guess, I'd probably go early second. But whoever gets him, I think they're getting a guy who's mentally ready and mentally tough enough to play in the NBA because he's good.
He's going to stick in the NBA. He's only a sophomore, but he's the same age as Jared Butler, so he's a year older than his class or the normal age, really. Jared Butler's a year younger than most of his junior class. But, 20 years old. The thing that I would say is a weakness is I noticed that he kind of falls in love with that mid-range jumper, step back, pull-ups. And, some of that's into the shot clock stuff, and you have to do it. But, I would say shot selection is the one thing that needs to improve. And, that's the only weakness I see. I mean, is there anything else that kind of stands out?
Nah, for me, that's really it. I mean, maybe ball handling in a sense, just being creative with the dribble to be able to get by NBA-level defenders. Because when he gets in the cup, he's a really good finisher because he's so athletic. But maybe creativity off the bounce is one thing that I could say maybe because I really haven't seen him have too much wiggle or too much shake with his handle. But he gets it done. And that mid-range jumper honestly takes a little bit off, takes the pressure off of his handle because he's able to take 1 or 2 dribbles, get to a spot, and rise up because he really elevates on his jump shot. So I think that right there is maybe one of his weaknesses, but to be honest, I don't really see too many. I mean,
we got a good example in NBA playoffs. I mean, Chris Paul has mastered that. He's incredible at that. So that's Deuce McBride, late first, early second. Let's talk about some guys that are probably second-round guys. Austin Reeves from Oklahoma. Interesting player, 6'6" in shoes. Probably 6'6" wingspan also. So he's not, a plus wingspan guy, but he creates offense for others. He creates offense for himself. He's a competitor. And one thing that really stuck out in his stats to me was he gets to the free throw line 7 attempts per game. In the Big 12, there's something to be said for that, And he's an 89% shooter when he gets to the free throw line. So if you can get those free buckets, whatever league you're in, that's a big thing. What do you see from him, and what does he need to work on?
So Austin Reeves is he's very interesting to me because when I played him when he was at Wichita State, he was just a spot-up shooter. And shot about like 44, 45 from the three just as a spot-up shooter playing with Landry Shamet. But then he gets to OU and kind of sort of is on ball the whole time. And I thought this past year he was good on ball, but there would be times where he'd be trying to do a little bit too much. His facilitating really wasn't the best. Almost at times he was trying to play hero ball and trying to take those shots that, your best player is supposed to take, but, Austin, like, hey, your teammate's open, find them, get other people involved sometimes. So I think that's the biggest question mark for me. Like, what position are you going to play in the NBA? Are you going to be an on-ball guy, or are you going to be that spot-up shooter that you were at Wichita State? So I think if he can find that out, for me, I think he might be more successful if he's a spot-up shooter. I mean, that spot-up shooter that can put the ball on the floor. Not just limit him, but a spot-up shooter can put the ball on the floor, create plays, play off a ball screen. But number one thing you do is knock down shooters, shoot 42 from the three. Then, if they close out, you can make plays off the bounce. But I think that'll be his best thing that he does in the NBA. If he can do that, I think he can stick because, you get paid a lot of money to shoot. Shooters will always have a spot to play. And he's so competitive, I think he can compete on the defensive end at 6'6". So I think if you can shoot, play defense, and make plays off the bounce but not forcing it like he did in college sometimes, I think he'll be a decent NBA player. Yeah,
he was only 31% from three. So that, but a lot of that was probably
shot selection.
Shot selection. And one of my favorite Bill Walton lines is, you don't get paid by the dribble. You know, I mean, you're right. He took the air out of the ball a lot. Like there was a lot of one-on-one, sizing the defense up, into the shot clock, force a bad shot type of situation. So he needs to get better than that. But he's not. That's not going to be his role in the NBA. He's not going to be a primary ball handler.
It can't be. Don't get me wrong, though. Dude gets hot. Like he got hot in the tournament against, who was that? Was that Gonzaga? He got hot against in the tournament. It went crazy.
Yeah.
And when he gets hot, he's a problem, but he's not going to do that in the NBA.
Right.
You can't do it in the NBA. You're going to spot up, stay in the corner, stay on the wing, come off this field, when I'm on a ball screen, I'll find you and knock down that three. You got to shoot at least 42% if he wants to stick.
Yep. Greg Brown is our next guy to talk about from Texas. 2 Texas guys to finish us out. Now, he's an interesting guy. Like, he was projected to be a lottery pick coming into this year. One-and-done guy. I know that was his mindset.
Yeah.
Didn't have the most successful season. 6'9", 7-foot wingspan. He's athletic, 39-inch vertical. Yeah. Those are the positives. The negatives is he didn't show a lot of basketball awareness, basketball IQ. He didn't have very many assists. I think there was one point in the season where he had less than 5 assists, and he picked it up near the end, had a couple more. But, shot selection's really bad at times.
Yeah.
We saw the Baylor game where he let his emotions, he gets a spectacular dunk, then he stares the guy down, gets a technical, and that ends up being a 4-point swing for Baylor, and that was, church after that for the Bears. I mean, what are some things you're seeing from Greg Brown?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Greg Brown is I don't know if he has a game yet, like an actual basketball game. I mean, for so long when he was in high school and he was on Ball His Life, he basically lived around the fact that he was more athletic. He was the most athletic kid on the court.
Right.
And lived off the fact that he can go dunk on a 6'1" kid that he's playing against in his conference. Like, it's not a Division I basketball player. So I think that when you even it out and you're playing with guys just as athletic as you have to be able to show your skill set. And I don't think he has a skill set yet. I mean, he didn't shoot the ball great. He's limited off the dribble. Can't put the ball on the ground very well. He can dunk. He might get some rebounds and stuff. But then he can't make plays. I mean, what you were talking about, there was a time I did a Texas game. This was towards the end of the season, like the second half of conference. My guy had 1 assist on the year. And I'm not exaggerating. He had 1 assist on the year.
Right.
And I'm like,
That's hard to do.
like that's like you can just throw the ball, kick the ball off your foot, and give it to somebody and get an assist. Like that's not hard to do at all.
Right.
So for him to have 1 assist shows you that he's very, very limited as far as vision or being able to make plays for others. And those stats, what he does not translate to winning. I mean, you can make the case that, okay, he can go be a defensive specialist and go guard the best team's wing, but he wasn't even playing defense like that, to be honest. I mean, sometimes he would, but he really wasn't guarding like that. Yeah. And I don't know if he can guard your Paul Georges in the NBA or your Luka Doncic's in the NBA. I don't think he can do that. I mean, he's athletic enough and long enough, but I don't know if he has that toughness and that mental toughness to be able to get scored on 3 possessions in a row, then come back that 4th possession and say, I got to get this stop to win the game.
Right.
So I don't know. He's kind of immature a little bit in a sense. I would have came back if I was him, but I think the biggest thing for him is I hope in this offseason he really worked on developing a game and understanding what he's good at and what's going to make him money. Right. And what's going to make him money is on the defensive side because offensively he's just not there yet.
His route's probably going to be the G League. I mean, let's be honest. He's probably not going to stick on an NBA roster, but he's young. Some franchise is going to take a chance on him and try to develop him in the G League. So
for sure. If he can develop and learn how to, I think first thing first is learn how to make an open 3 at a consistent rate.
Right.
You can do that, and then everything comes from it because you can just be a 3-and-D guy. You can get paid some money and stick in the NBA. But if he works, I think he has a chance because he is young. He's only like 19 years old. So he has time, but he has a long ways to go.
Yep. All right, Jericho Sims. He's an interesting prospect to me because 6'10", 250, strong, 7'3" wingspan, 45-inch vertical. Ridiculous. I think he had the highest vertical, or this maybe second or third highest in the NBA Combine. Great shot blocker, rebounder, rim roller. It just didn't ever seem to put it together. Maybe I kind of feel like the Texas guards didn't know how to use their bigs.
See, okay.
Like if he was at Baylor, he may be a first rounder, you know?
I'm glad you said it because that's the first point I was going to say. I was going to say Texas's guards just frankly weren't good enough to use him and make him be the level of player that he should have been. I mean, I'm not gonna say they're not good enough because they're really talented, but I don't think that they had the playmaking abilities to do that.
Right.
They were mainly focused on scoring and trying to get theirs first.
Yep.
And not really looking to use him because Jericho Sims is not a post up player.
Right.
He's a rim roller. He's a defender, a high level defender, which is why I think he can come in and make an instant impact on the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he'll be a 10-plus year player in the NBA just because of his athleticism. And the things that you ask him to do is not hard. Set me a good screen, roll to the rim, and we're going to throw it up to you, and you just go dunk on somebody.
And he's athletic enough that he can probably guard
he can do it,
the pick and roll. Like that. I mean, that's always the big worry about big guys is,
he can move his feet,
Like a Zach Randolph probably doesn't prosper in today's NBA. But he did at a time when you had two post players, but now it's 4 out, 1 in for most teams. But he can guard that pick and roll pretty well.
Yeah.
So a backup center, I mean, I definitely see him sticking on a roster.
I think he could definitely be a backup center, potentially a starting center, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, he's athletic enough. He can protect the rim well enough with his 45-inch vertical. I think he'll be a great pro. I think him and Kai Jones on that Texas squad will be 2 great pros.
Yeah, which will highlight maybe some ineptitude and why they didn't do better, but that's another conversation. Well, you've been listening to a draft preview with King McClure and Ashley Hodge, and now we're going to focus on the Baylor prospects.